It seems pretty undeniable at this point that we are definitively watching the rapid deterioration and potential entire downfall of Hollywood as we know it. And I know there's going to be people who look at something like this and think, what's the big fucking deal? What does it matter if the top 10 highest grossing movies of the year are entirely sequels, even if it is the first time in history? Like, is that such a big deal? These are movies that people liked, and why can't critics just let people enjoy things? There's a few reasons why I think this is happening and why it is definitively awful. And obviously a huge part of it is that we live under late stage capitalism, right? And corporate greed has never been higher, and the accelerated deregulation of industry and Hollywood specifically means that people are getting cut out of these jobs and they are becoming increasingly soulless. But that's always what corporations were going to do. Capitalism exists to have exponential growth. And so they were always going to try to sell you the lowest common denominator as long as it made them a profit. And that's what they're doing. I think a secondary issue and a symptom of this is the fact that people are accepting it and people are giving them a ton of money for this slop. Like, I can't even, it makes me so mad to think about all of the live action remakes that are happening just in the next 2 years. Like, it's, as someone who loves animation, it's fundamentally irritating to me that the animation is not considered good enough and we have to just tell the exact same story, do the exact same thing all over again, except make it look worse, because animation actually sometimes is the best medium to tell these stories just because they know it's gonna make $1 billion every time they fucking do it. A huge topic of conversation on the internet the past few years has been about how cringe millennials are because they can't let go of their youthful interests. They still talk about what Harry Potter house they're in, or Marvel movies are still popular because of millennials, or whatever. But often a huge element that's missing from that conversation is the fact that millennials were the first generation that had to cope with the fact that they might never reach the same economic milestones as their parents. Most of my friends and myself still have student loans in our 30s. Most of us don't own homes. Most of us have had to accept the fact that adulthood is going to look very different for us than it is for other people. And I think a lot of people, I think culturally, a very unanimous response to this has been to cling to nostalgia and the things that we identified with as children. I think that Gen Z, in a similar but different way, likes nostalgia for slightly different reasons. It might very well be a coping mechanism to a shitty situation, but it seems like we've created this acceptable new reality where this modern version of adulthood rejects growth and change. And for a lot of people, it seems like life in their 30s and 40s doesn't look or feel all that different from life in their early 20s. And I feel like that is a choice that a lot of people are making, to live in this state of arrested development, because adulthood feels very foreign, unobtainable, and undesirable to a lot of people because it doesn't come with the same benefits or perks that it did for our parents and grandparents. Problem is, while that might be a coping mechanism that soothes the discomfort and temporarily makes you feel better to just sit in nostalgia and not think about how shitty the world really is, that is just copium. That is us just choosing to accept our shitty circumstances and not do anything about it. And that's not the only issue. The internet, which was introduced to us as this revolutionary tool for the people, has been co-opted again by corporations and twisted into this conformist monoculture that forces people to merely react to culture instead of participate in it. No, I do this too, okay? I'm just as much part of the problem. Please don't misunderstand and think I'm better than this, because every time I choose to see a movie that I'm not interested in just because I think it's going to be important for me to have an opinion on it because that's what's going to get clicks in the algorithm, every time I structure my content around what is algorithmically most favorable, I'm part of this, okay? And it drives me crazy, and it's one of the reasons why I've taken some steps back over the past few months, because I'm trying to figure out what exactly is right for me, because I don't want to be a part of this. I feel like we are flattening our idea of identity because everyone just has to be involved in the same conversation, and it's boring and it's exhausting. And it feels like we really are putting the nail in the coffin of true individualism, and that identity is just getting lost in this performance of self that is really, truly self-destructive for all of us. Because how can you actually be an individual if you are performing your identity for millions or even just thousands or hundreds of people, which all of us are doing all the time? And so, of course, conformity is making a comeback, because the thing is, if you are an actual individual, as somebody who has posted truly hot takes on the internet, it sucks to say something that is unpopular. People are straight up just mean to you. Like, hot takes that get 1 million views and are filled with comments being like, so brave of you to say, are not actual hot takes, because sharing an opinion that is unpopular is genuinely not fun in this world. And I think that's bad, maybe. Thing is, I know there's going to be people who are like, it's really not that deep, bro. This is just the internet, or it's just movies. It's not that deep. And the thing is, it is though, because this is the entirety of what arts and culture is now. The internet and movies, and let's throw popular music in there too. Because for most people, for many people, that is all of the art and culture that they consume. They don't read, they don't go to museums, they see movies, and they scroll the internet. So this is what arts and culture is in the modern world. And it doesn't matter if the people who are making the corporate art are incredibly talented. If that is the only art that people are seeing, that is bad. That's bad. Especially when you take into consideration things like our current political climate and the ways that it could change for the worse very rapidly, even still, even from this point right now. So if I think this is really that big of a problem, like how do I propose fixing it? I think you have to get out of the fucking algorithm. I think people genuinely need to take steps. You don't have to do things you wouldn't ordinarily do. I don't think that you should just say, oh, well, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to start going to museums or whatever, because you probably won't. You probably won't actually do that. There's so many things that I want to do that I don't do, but I think you've got to get out of the algorithm and you've got to start actively and aggressively pursuing, finding out, and seeking out for yourself things that seem interesting to you. Because the stuff that is going to get advertised and pushed out is the most broadly appealing stuff out there. It's the stuff that they anticipate is going to make the most money, and that is it. And if that is all you consume, that is soon all that there will be. And there is great art being made out there. Frankly, that doesn't just count for you either. If you have kids in your life, whether they're your kids or just kids of your friends or your family, like, take an active role in introducing them to things that mattered to you or deeply impacted you. Show them shows that you think will add value to their lives, because kids oftentimes are just as isolated as adults these days, and they end up just watching whatever is fed to them or whatever their friends are watching, which is typically just what's fed to them, and it's a vicious fucking cycle. So that's my rant. I don't know. It's shitty, but I feel like we just gotta try.